This Mexico City Grand Prix Betting Picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome in to another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I'm Rod Villagomez. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm trying to remember how to work the controls of this one because after 6 months off, it's always weird to come back to the F1 Gambling Podcast studio. Even though we had a race last week, Cody, it still sometimes feels like there's such a long delay that I forget how the controls here work in this studio. So, hi, everyone.
Yeah. Yes. Well, hello. And 3 in a row, Rod. So you'll be a pro by next week, and then we'll have more time off between next week in Las Vegas. But yeah, 3 weeks in a row. The swing through the Americas, I guess, is what we're on currently. So yeah, looking forward to continuing that this week in Mexico City. Pretty good race last week at Coda. Again, F1 has become unpredictable, and you really don't know what's going to happen. You get a different winner for the sprint and their actual Grand Prix. Like, when's the last time that happened? I'm loving this version of the F1, Rod.
You know, yes and no at the same time. I mean, we were just talking about it. We were just talking about it before we logged on. And, you know, we begged for this. We were like, can we please get more winners? Can we please get, but then we got it. And it's be careful what you ask for because we almost don't know on a week-to-week basis.
Which is, it's good and bad, right? Because when Max was just dominating everything and everybody was kind of falling in line, it was I would say a good amount easier to sort of find like, okay, yeah, you just take less of a number on this, but it's going to happen because it happens every week, right? And not necessarily betting Max at the huge minus number, which if you did for a while probably worked until it didn't. But just like things seemed more known going into a weekend, and now you don't know. I mean, really, any of the big four teams can do it, and Ferrari just proved it this weekend, right? Like, they come out of after the thing. I mean, we went into last week talking about McLaren, talking about Mercedes. Red Bull's always the conversation, right? And the Ferrari just kind of sneaks up and pokes their head in. And luckily, we still hit a few bets last week and had a good time. But yeah, it is sort of crazy how much it's swung, I guess, just off of, you know, the last season or two where it was such just kind of the same thing every week. And that was all you heard from people, right? Like, oh, I'm not just going to watch Max Verstappen win by 25 seconds every week. Like, now you don't know. Like, and it seems like the races are more chaotic. We've had really good racing too. I mean, between Max and Lando a couple different times, including this last weekend, was great. So yeah, I'm loving what we have right now for product on track.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. So and that's the difficult part, especially when you're playing fantasy or you're gambling or anything. Sometimes you can't separate the gambler / betting / DFS person from the actual fan, because as a fan, this is far more exciting at this point in the season than it was in this time of the season last year, right? I mean, you're getting way more drama. And like you said, we talked about upgrades and whose upgrades would be the best. We kind of glossed over Ferrari, and Ferrari comes out screaming and takes the first 2 spots of the Grand Prix at Coda. So, you know, from a fan's perspective, you absolutely love it. But then from a gambling perspective, from a betting perspective, it's hard to find an edge now because the books kind of don't even know how to make out of this either, because You're getting really tanked prices for top sixes on obviously the big teams like Ferrari, McLaren, and Red Bull. And then even points finishes for these guys too, that you got to look outside of guys that don't normally finish in the points and try to figure out at which point one of those is going to be able to finish in the points this week. So the books are making it tough. The drivers are making it tough. But Cody, there's only a few races left, and we're still going to have some fun doing what we do, because that's what we do on the F1 Gambling Podcast. We look for ways to have fun to watch the race, and we're glad that you listened to us, by the way. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to the F1 Gambling Podcast. We love and support all of you on the outside as well. And look, if you can find it in your heart to reach over and just kind of scroll up a little bit, there's 5 little stars that are begging for you to just push all 5 stars and rate this show 5 stars if you like it. The bosses are paying attention now. They're seeing which shows are grabbing these 5-star ratings. And if you want the F1 Gambling Podcast to continue on your podcaster of choice, be it Spotify or Apple or whatever you use, be easy. Just put 5 little stars on the show. Keep us afloat. We got, like I said, the end of the season's coming up. Got a little review with the bosses. They decide whether or not they want to renew the show, and 5-star ratings go a long way to do that. So prevent corporate gambling from taking over the space. Give us 5 stars, and we'll love you forever.
Yes, we will, Rob.
I mean, we already love them, Cody. Let's not mince words. We love them, but we'll love you forever.
Forever, which is a long time.
It's a long time. It's how long on the track it feels between Charles Leclerc and the second place car in the COTA Grand Prix, which, by the way, Cody, we've watched NASCAR races at COTA, right? And we watch them go completely sideways because these guys try to cram themselves 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 wide into that first turn. We kind of witnessed a little bit of that in F1, and hey, Charles Leclerc, man, came out on top of that Lando Max battle. Never looked back.
Yeah, he really didn't. It is funny. We can shove the NASCAR cars in there 8 wide, but you push a guy a little too far off the track and it's a time penalty. But again, that's another conversation for another day. But yes, I do agree with you that was exciting. And hey, Charles Leclerc, he's man, I'm starting to get really excited to see Lewis and Ferrari next year, Rod. If they kind of keep this up and this momentum going forward, man, this parity going into next season, points races. I mean, obviously Red Bull kind of got the head start this year, right? And so, McLaren's obviously run them down in the constructor, but we're not really getting much of a battle. But we could have a wire to wire battle between 3, 4, 5 guys next year. Oh, I'm already looking forward to the 25 season. I'm pretty pumped about it.
Well, yeah, and we actually did cash a few bets out of that last week, which would have cashed a couple more if stinking George Russell or, if Perez would have held off Russell for a few more turns. Damn it, man, that pisses me off.
Yeah, that'll happen, Rod. But, oh, boy. So what do you do? What do you do?
What do you do? Well, I know that let's go quickly over the card real quick. What do we have, Cody?
Let's do it. Yeah. Lewis Hamilton, podium finish. That's we talked about this pre-show, right? One of the things that sucks at times with F1 is like if your qualifying doesn't go well, your weekend's sort of tanked, and it sucks because then it sort of makes your bets irrelevant kind of going into the weekend, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. And on the other side of things, right, if you put a 5-1 podium on there and then he qualifies well, then it's the opposite, right? You have a really good number. You're not going to get that anymore. So Mercedes had speed on the weekend. Like Russell started on the pit lane, drives all the way back up to 6th place. Lewis obviously only lasts 5 laps. So hard to know what this could have been, but of course didn't cash.
Yeah, no, Lewis, frustrating after that weekend of practice and qualifying and sprint, all that stuff. So, yeah, definitely not good. I talked about Perez not being able to hold off George Russell for just a few more turns. Had him on a top 6 finish, which is where he was. I mean, that's Perez was a 6th place car for a better part of that race. For all but about a quarter of that race, he was a top 6 car. And, I mean, George Russell just had the speed, had the tires, had everything he needed to get Perez. And I mean, I don't know. Perez went to those hard tires and just had to keep those things on, right? I mean, I really wish that he would have built up enough of a gap where he could have thrown some mediums or some soft for the end and just kind of made a charge at the end. But yeah, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, man, it's just so close on Perez there. And obviously, you were on the right track with going for it. Somewhere else, we were on the right track, Rod. Young guys and points finishes. We both gave out winners here. I had Colapinto plus 200. You had Liam Lawson at plus 400. Cash money. Colapinto finished in 10th. Lawson in 9th. So yeah, we cashed both these bets, Rod.
Hey, and Liam Lawson too. This was not a Liam Lawson. Man, Liam, I'm going to say your name right one of these times, but it's just, when you got Liam Lawson, it's hard to not get the M in there. But this was not a fluke drive for him. He started 19th, right? He started second on the to the end of the grid, and just like he found his way into the top 10, played the right strategy, started on those hard tires, and just kept going. Everybody's pitting, kept clawing his way through, got those second set of tires, and just found his way into the top 10 and just didn't give it up. I got a little scared after Hülkenberg started to make his way back up through the field. And then, I saw guys like Colapinto that were working his way up through the field. Like I kind of got a little nervous that gap might go away, but no, Lawson held on, and very impressed with the drive for that RB team. Not to say that Ricardo couldn't have gotten it done, but I think Lawson's a pretty good guy to slam in there.
Yeah, I mean he's obviously been doing really well, and then with Colapinto, I mean that car just looked so bad with Logan Sargent behind the wheel, and it looks so much better now, and he's actually been outrunning Albon here lately over in the Williams camp, which is also sort of an interesting thing. But yeah, great runs by both those guys. I had Yuki Tsunoda as the winner without. He let me down, Rod. He wasn't even really close to this. I mean, you had ahead of him was Hülkenberg, Lawson, Colapinto, Magnussen, Gasly, all ahead of him as far as winners without the top 5. So, yeah, I miss on this one. I don't know. I'm sort of falling off the Yuki train at the moment. His teammate was up there, but yeah, I'm gonna step back from the Yuki stuff until we start getting better numbers again, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of an uncharacteristic run for him. He did start 10th, but did not manage to wind up there. He was pissed off a couple of times. His radio was fun to kind of peek in on every once in a while because he was not thrilled with that. I picked the wrong Kick Sauber driver to finish as the last qualified. I told you, Zhou Guanyu was at like negative 125, I think is what it was to be the last one. And I was like,
it's probably a bigger number this week.
Oh God, yeah. But I picked
his last every week. It's still like the thought process is correct, and I think that it's not a bad bet to keep sort of making, because these Kick Sauber cars are just really fucking slow, Rod.
Yeah. Well, Bottas finished 16th. I mean, he finished like one spot above Ocon, 2 spots above Zhou, and Lewis was the one that didn't finish.
And Lewis wasn't classified anyways. So, winning margin between 6 and 12 seconds, Rod, plus 275. Did hit that one. It was a 8.5 second win between Leclerc and Sainz. I had Oscar Piastri at 5-1. He obviously did not win, and I had Lewis Hamilton at 14-1. Of course, we already talked about him. Not I don't know, not so much the weekend for Piastri. 5th place. I mean, he's been consistent, but obviously you kind of expected more out of the McLarens. Norris, we know, had enough to get around Max for that podium finish. Obviously the penalty then enforced, and he falls back to 4th at the end of the day. But yeah, just missed out on both Oscar and Lewis.
Yep. And then I had given you Max to win the sprint and to win the race. He did half of that. I'm glad I didn't suggest a parlay for that, because that would have been frustrating. But
plus 250 for that sprint win. That was a good one, Rob.
And then you thought for sure that put him in a good position to win the race as well. But yeah, I mean, look, that first turn, when you lose it, it's hard to get it back, especially if you don't have the speed and you can't get within DRS range within the first few laps. It's kind of tanks your day. But yeah,
that'll do it.
Overall, pretty decent day on the card, and we'll take it and we'll move it over into our Mexico City Grand Prix. So, Cody, let's do that. But before we do, I would like to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em as one of the biggest menus for all of sports, as you already know, right? There's NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, Formula One, so much more. Boostober is upon us, which means you're getting a spooky amount of profit boosts and so much more. And with the NBA tipping off, every NBA Pick'em entry from now until the 27th will be boosted. You can use specials and boosts on all flexed entries. Keep an eye open on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. We'll probably make ourselves some underdog picks for this Formula One race. In the meantime, though, sign up with your promo code, or with our promo code, RACESGPN, to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. All right, Cody, we move to the Mexico City Grand Prix. Like we said, it is the next leg of this North American swing of this, I guess hemisphere swing. Yeah, this is still North America, but looking forward to this one. This is going to be a race that is on it almost looks like a short version of Florida. Like if Florida didn't have the long panhandle part of it, or if Florida was shorter.
So I was thinking, Rod, it looks like a stealth bomber where like one wing is longer than the, like, obviously, the one side is a little longer than the other, but it's like a misshaped stealth bomber. You could almost go with like a bat or like a ghost. It's Halloween time, right? So
a ghost. I like that. The bat I could take, or the stingray. I like the underneath of a stingray.
Yeah. Yeah, he just got, one of his what would that be? Like a fin, I guess, flapper. I don't know.
Sure.
Longer than the other. All right, enough about sea life. Let's get into racing picks.
Indeed. 71 laps around this 4.304 kilometer track, so just under 3 miles for this one. First Grand Prix here was held in 1963. There are 17 turns on this track, 2 DRS zones, one between 9 and 10, and then the other really, really short one between 14 and 15. Valtteri Bottas owns the lap record for this race. 1 minute, 17 seconds, 0.7774. Yeah, this is going to be a good one. There's a big, long straightaway between 17 and 1. Lots of opportunity for overtaking on that one. Again, another one between 3 and 4. So, yeah, there's going to be some chances for some overtaking here. But telling you what, Cody, we talked about it just before we got into this. This is a little bit tough to handicap this week because the books are being kind of careful with this one. And we also kind of have to be careful with this one.
Yeah, they are, but they aren't at the same time. And that's actually going to be part of my handicap on a couple of these bets is sort of more about the number than anything. And you just got to take the opportunities that they're giving us, Rob.
Indeed. All right. Well, then, shall we start our card off?
Let's start it off. So points finishers, you look, and boy, they've really, for a long time, we were getting some really good numbers. We we're getting a lot of value, right? Now you're like even money for the top 14 drivers, and it's like, it's hard to sort of get a points finisher anymore that you're getting a ton of value on. And so I think that you sort of just have to go a little farther down the board, find somebody that you can make a case that could get in there. And those are the guys that you have to ride with. The guy that I'm going to ride with, Rod, Esteban Ocon for a points finish. He's 5-1 over on Bet365. He's coming off a little bit of a rough week last week. Of course, he was sandwiched between the kick Saubers, so that's not necessarily a vote of confidence in his favor, but could be helping us get a little bit of a better number, right? Go back over the last 3 races here. Again, that's kind of the general sample size I like to use in F1 of how guys have done at this circuit that we're going to. 10th place last season, so of course that is in the points. 8th place in 2022, 13th in 2021, so a little farther back, but the last 2 seasons he's been inside of the points. Look, the season started off right, and we thought Alpine was going to be what Kick Saubers turned into, where they were just really slow, they were bad, everybody like jumped ship and quit and left, and then all of a sudden we got a nice little bump from them, and they started to sort of pick things up. Now, he only has 4 points finishes on the season, but he's had a lot of close calls or be in the vicinity of points, which, again, sort of what we're looking for. 18th last week, as I mentioned, not a great run, but 13th at Singapore, again, not too far out of there. 13th to, 13th in NASCAR to the top 10 is a lot closer than it is in F1, but still in the vicinity. Something happens, a little bit of strategy difference here or there. things can happen and get you up there. 15th at Baku, 14th at Italy, 9th at Belgium. So again, he was in the points just a couple of races ago. And so again, it's that balance of trying to find a good number on a guy that's done it multiple times, the last 2 seasons in a row at this circuit. And he's had glimpses of the ability to do well this season, right? Like, I think it would be pretty hard to come on here and make a case for one of the Kick Sauber cars to finish in the points, because I don't know if they have it all, Rod. I'd have to look, but I'd be pretty shocked if they've, finished better than 15th when there's more cars running on the track still. They're constantly at the back, as we've sort of highlighted multiple times. But these Alpine cars, we've at least seen the ability to get in the points. He's done it 4 times this season, so he's been able to get up there a few times, been good at the circuit as well. So give me Esteban Ocon for a points finish at 5-1.
Yes, sir. Yeah, the Alpine cars, we used to, like you said, hammer them as double top 10 finishes just about every single week last year, and it's kind of tough to watch it fall off. But I guess if one guy can claw his way back, it is definitely Esteban Ocon. So I'm with you on that one. Plus the number's great. I mean, how awesome would it be? And we're not even asking for a top 6. We're just asking to get into the top 10, please, Esteban Ocon for sure. Love that one. All right, I'm going to go back to the Liam Lawson but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put his other guy in there, because if you look at a points finish for Liam Lawson this week, I think they put it at even money. I have to pull it back up again because I just clicked off of it, but a points finish for Liam Lawson is plus 240 right now, which is good. I mean, I would definitely get down on that one. Maybe I'll even add that to the card. So we'll go back to the points finish, plus 240 over there on Bet US. I think that's why I stayed away from it, because it was shorter on a couple of other books. But I'm looking at Bet US, and they're giving me plus 240. So let's do that. Liam Lawson, points finish, plus 240 on Bet US. But Bet US is also giving us RB, a Racing Bulls, Visa Cash App, RB, all that other stuff, double points finish at 8-1. I mean, look, we just talked about Liam Lawson and that he was a points finisher last year, and convincingly too. He drove his way through the field, played the right strategies, did everything he needed to do to get into the points this week. And we know that Yuki Tsunoda is just one of the guys that we used to hammer for points finishes week in and week out. And I know Cody just talked about he's off of Yuki Tsunoda, which is fine, because I mean, it's been a while since his last points finish, which was at Hungary, right? That was his last points finish. He had back-to-back points finishes at the British Grand Prix and at Hungary, and then kind of went on to sort of fluff off. But 12th place finish at Marina Bay, 14th place finish at Coda. Again, it's not points finishes. It doesn't make you feel all that warm and fuzzy. He does not have a points finish here at this particular track. However, he did finish 12th in the 2023 Mexico City Grand Prix. So, I mean, look, it's a long shot for a reason, right? But we know that now with Liam Lawson in that second RB car, the possibility is there for both of them to get in, because if Yuki Tsunoda can kind of get back to it. I mean, he started 10th last week, so it wasn't as if he didn't have top 10 speed, at least in qualifying. It just, the race didn't play out the way he wanted it to, and the way that RB wanted it to. But I think maybe if Yuki Tsunoda would have started out on hard tires, maybe that would have been a difference as well, because they put Lawson in those tires, and he pretty much drove to a points finish. Yuki would have started on hard. Who knows? Maybe we would have been able to see him get into the points as well. So 8-1, though, that's a really good deal for both RBs to be in the top 10. So I'm going to take that. And then, like I said, I'm also going to add the Lawson points finish by itself at plus 240 from BetUS.
Yeah, I do love the Lawson part of this. Man, BetUS killing it again with the number. Should have looked a little harder over there, Rod. I might have ended up having this on my card, so glad you're taking it. And I think that you're getting a good number on both of them to be there at 8-1. Obviously, we know that Yuki can do it. I believe in him, as he's been probably one of my more bet drivers throughout the last season or two here, between this podcast and, of course, the articles over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com. And I just said I was going to be off of him, but putting in there with his teammate, if he can get up there, it's a good number. We know he's capable of doing it, so I do like it.
Well, I'm looking at the double points finish on DraftKings, and RB is at plus 550. So that is very, very low on that one. And then a top 10
Get signed up for BetUS. Promo code SGPN, Rod.
Seriously. Lawson points finish at plus 175 on DK. So that's what I'm saying. That's why plus 240 is way better number for Lawson at BetUS. So gotta love it. Yep. Sign up and do all that good stuff with promo code SGPN. All right, Cody, let us let's take a break and then we'll go commercial free for the rest of the way. Shall we?
Let's do that.
We just got done singing the praises about BetUS, so now's a good time to tell you about BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with a business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can also easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. U.S. players are always welcome, so come on down. BetUS is live with Trick or Treat on Horror Street. From now until Halloween, BetUS will be offering daily promotions and a free raffle entry, and you can win a sports or casino prize pack that they'll give away on October the 31st. Multiple entries are allowed, so get in there. Every $200 deposit gets one entry. Like I said, we just gave you a fantastic number on an RB double points finish at plus 800, and then Liam Lawson plus 240 for a points finish as well on BetUS. You can find many, many more that you like over there. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS, promo code SGPN, so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. You can build your own model. You can copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard or press build a model for me, and Rhythm's going to give you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
All right, Rod. You want to know somewhere where they have not adjusted the number enough, in my opinion? That is the winner without market. We just talked about that a few minutes ago. Don't worry, it's not Yuki Tsunoda. I didn't already go back on that already, Rod. But I am going to go to the winner without. Of course, it's winner without the big five. So Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, and then, of course, Aston Martin still lumped in there for whatever reason, if we're going to consider them part of the big five. That's mostly an Alonso deal. But winner without them, I'm taking Nico Hülkenberg plus 225, Rod. He's been pretty solid as of late. 13th place finisher last season. Not the greatest run, but not too bad, right? But 8th place last week in the U.S. Grand Prix. That was first of the without teams. The winner without, he was that. 9th place at Singapore, also first there. 11th place at Baku. He had a bad run at Italy. We're going to toss that out. It happens, right? 11th place at the Dutch Grand Prix. Second as far as winner without there. 6th place back at the British Grand Prix. He's had a lot of good runs in him as of late. So I'm going to continue to sort of ride that train. He's hot. He's done it the last couple of Grand Prix in a row. And I think that he's a guy that continues to just kind of show up and be solid each and every week. Magnussen was kind of the leader coming into the season in that, over there for Haas and everything. And that's shifted big time. And Hülkenberg is the one who's delivered the better results. Just kind of seems to be consistent solidly. He'll jump up, grab that 6th place, once for you, probably pretty much this season. But then he's going to be somewhere in that 8 to 12 range each and every single week in the mix to be that best of the rest. I think plus 225, a good number for the guy who's been done it more than anybody else has lately.
I do find it hard to believe that they continue to add Aston Martin into the mix. There feels it's no reason to put them in there anymore.
It's the Alonso thing, because I think if you don't have, if you don't have them included, then Alonso's just a heavy favorite in these groups. But that would introduce being able to bet on Stroll, which actually would be interesting every once in a while, depending on the number, because he jumps up and has pretty solid races. But yeah, they probably should edit that and just make it the big four, I think, Rob.
Drop it back down to the big four, because it used to be the big four. I mean, right. It actually was the big three for a while.
Yeah.
Big four.
Yeah, it was the big three for a long time, when we first started the show, and then they added in McLaren, and then Alonso was up at 2 seasons ago. I mean, he was competing for almost wins, right? Which when nobody else was. And then, yeah, that's really fallen off quite a bit. And we'll see. Adrian Newey's there now. So I think that they'll feel the results of that next season more. Williams, they're going to start to put themselves, I think, in conversation. They've already been improving. Then they're going to add Carlos Sainz to the mix. Again, try not to pump up 25 too much, Rod, but fuck, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I was trying to look at Fernando Alonso, trying to think, but what it was, and he's a solid points finisher week in and week out. So I guess you can't ignore him. But all right, I'm gonna do it again this week, and maybe this is the week that it pulls through. But I'm gonna put Lewis on the podium at 5-1 over on BetUS. That's really a big reason. 5-1 for a podium finish on BetUS. If you go to any other book, it's plus 380 over on DK right now, and it's pretty much in between in that area on most of these other books. But BetUS is giving you 5-1 for Lewis Hamilton to be on the podium. Lewis Hamilton, I don't care what happened around him, has been on the podium on this track 4 straight seasons. He won this race in 2019 and finished second to Max in 2021, 2022, and 2023. Again, Max Verstappen won all of those races. If you look at the overall track stats from who's won this race, you go back all the way to 2016 and you get Hamilton, Verstappen, Verstappen, Hamilton, Verstappen, Verstappen, Verstappen. Like it's just been Lewis and Max trading off wins on this track overall, and who hasn't won ends up finishing second pretty much to that person each and every except for in 2019 when Sebastian Vettel actually finished second to Lewis Hamilton. But it's been Hamilton finishing second to Max, Lewis finishing second to Max, a lot of names in there, for the last 3 seasons. So yeah, it's just been tough. Like that's where he's been. He's been on the second step of the podium each and every time for the last 3 seasons. Now, this season has not been the greatest for Lewis, and we know this. This has not been a Lewis type of a season. We know that he's only got a handful of podiums to his name this year. He had a really bad outing at the U.S. The first time he never DNF'd at a United States Grand Prix too, which has got to be frustrating for him. He's got 4 podiums in those 19 starts, so it hasn't happened very often. But I mean, look, didn't we talk about this with Kyle Busch too? Like the track stats say that he's going to be dominant every single time he sets foot on a track. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't happen, but it's got to happen one time, right? 5-1 is a good price.
Well, actually, that was the comparison. I said he is like Lewis Hamilton, where if you go back through all the track stats, it's always going to be good, right? But I think that at this number, he's worth kind of continuing to put a bet on. I had this bet last week. Obviously, you didn't have much of a chance, but we saw the speed that the Mercedes had. Russell drove all the way up to the field. If they start well, we know what Lewis is capable of doing. He's obviously good at these tracks, been really good here. I think that where the number is at, it makes it good. All right, Rod, I'm going to go back to the winning margin bet. Worked for us last week. We took between 6 and 12. Got the win there at plus 240. This week, DraftKings giving us between 6 and 12 at plus 300. So they're moving it up, Rod. And I'll be honest with you. There's no rhyme or reason to. I was trying to find a pattern between like recent races of like, okay, it really points to this group of time, right? And there just is. It's everything has been all over the place. Now, the last 3 here was 13, 15, 16 seconds. So you could say, well, obviously that's going to be more, right? But the thing about that is that was during the max domination era, right? And that's not where we're at anymore. And so, yeah, it was 13, 15, and 16 seconds. So maybe you just automatically go to that group and you're like, well, what is it? I think it's more than 12 seconds basically is the other option. And it's like, okay, yes, but we're not in that type of racing right now, right? But then you go back and you look through this season and 8.5 last week at the U.S., so would have hit, right? But then Singapore was 20.9 seconds. So if you get a Lando out front, they can run away from it, right? Baku was 10.9, so that means 2 of the last 3 you're inside of this group, right? Italy was only 2.6. Then the Dutch Grand Prix was 22 seconds. So I will say there's not necessarily a solid rhyme or reason, but to me it feels like based on we're not having the max domination right now, based on the fact that anybody can get up there and be fast. We've seen a lot of times guys not be able to pull away too much, but once you're out of the DRS range, you can put a little bit of space in there. I think a 3-1 for what just hit last week for us, and is a little shorter, which is sort of what I'm looking for, than what it was during Max's domination over the last 3 seasons. I think this is a good range. So again, this is more of a number play than anything, but a 3-1 for winning margin between 6 and 12 seconds feels right to me. That's the one I'm gonna run it back. We hit it last week, so why not run it again this week?
Yeah, and gone are the days where Max pulls out to like a 2-minute lead, right? Where he's just basically lapping the field.
Can we pit for? Remember when he was asking if we could pit for practice for the guys?
That was it was like 35.
Those were the days. Up. He's like, well, should we make a pit stop here so the guys can get a little practice? And you're
like, Max, dude, stay on the track. Like, yeah, you want to see, but this is why I preach being humble, man. Stay arrogant, because you do stuff like that, Lando's going to come and just bite into your championship lead, and you start to get too comfortable. But yeah,
and this could easily. I think Max is still capable of doing that, although we haven't seen it from him for a while. Lando obviously has done it a few times here lately, and really, I think any of these guys in that top 8 or so could probably win by more than this, and it certainly could be a closer margin. Both of those numbers are a lot shorter, and I just don't think there's any specific, like, oh, yeah, it's always this here. It's been this a lot lately. Like, it's all over the fucking place. So we're just going to go right in the middle, get the good number, and, 6 to 12 feels like a good range.
I agree. I have not done this in a while, but I'm going back to it. I'm going to go to the fastest pit stop, because it just felt like it was always, well, they had nuked Red Bull's number, which is something you didn't want to do. And then, you're like, but Ferrari doesn't do it often enough. But McLaren lately has been doing it and doing it well. They've done it. They had the fastest pit stop over the last 2 Grand Prix, which obviously the US Grand Prix, and then the one in Marina Bay. Baku, they did not end up getting it, and that was a weird fluke where this time actually it was Sauber that got it at the believe it or not, Sauber got the fastest pit stop in that particular race, which I guess it wasn't Bottas. I don't remember who it was. Alpine grabbed it at Monza, and then in the Dutch Grand Prix it ended up being the RBs. But outside of those kind of outliers, which see, that's the thing about it, like those ones, you can try it to guess if they're going to do it, but they just pop up and get those. Whereas McLaren, they got it at the Belgian Grand Prix as well. And then you go back to Hungary, they didn't get it there. But again, they've been consistently at the top of the charts over the last few weeks, with a couple of outliers here and there. But they're getting Lando in and out. And if they're not getting Lando, they're getting Piastri in and out, like 2.1, 2.2. It's 2.2, it's 2.2, 2.3, but their pit stops have been just balls out lately. So, and Red Bull hasn't necessarily been the top team on pit stops as much as they have. You saw it a couple of weeks ago where I think it was Sergio Perez had like a 2.7, and then it was Verstappen with a 2.5. Like, they're not consistently in that high ones, low twos like they have been week after week. So they're not the favorite anymore, and I think McLaren could get them. So give me McLaren as the fastest pit stop at 3-1 on DK.
Yeah, I have no argument against your fastest pit stop ever, Rod, because you're pretty good at the fastest pit stop stuff. All right, should we get into the winner segment? It's so nice to be able to have actual box of winners now, Rod. We didn't used to. We had to find other things to put in this box, but here we go. I am going to go. Look, I'm just sticking to the Oscar Piastri train. I'm going to just keep riding this thing. And again, this is all about the number. So if you pull everybody up and you look, and can Max win this race? Obviously, yes, but he's pretty short, right? Like plus 260. Can Lando win this race? Of course he can, right? He's been super fast lately, but again, it's the same number. Could it be Charles Leclerc? Well, sure, right? He just did it last week, but again, same number. Sainz is a little bit longer. Piastri plus 850. Then you start getting into longer numbers there, and that's what I like with Piastri, is similar to the Kyle Larson, William Byron thing we talk about in NASCAR a lot, right? Where you get Kyle Larson, it's such a short number in this fast car, and yes, he's obviously the number one driver and everything, but harder to bet on him when so many things can go wrong in the weekend. But then you get William Byron, who's also in just as fast of a car, who's almost just as good of a driver. And I think that that's sort of the comparison, right? Lando is Larson in this scenario, and Oscar is William Byron. And I think that a lot of comparisons can be drawn there. So you're telling me that McLaren has been the best car in the series lately, right? It's been the fastest car, and nobody's going to argue that. And you're giving me the second best guy, who, by the way, has won multiple races here as of late, at a much bigger number at plus 850. I like that. So I am going to take Oscar Piastri. So I'm going to take him to win the pole, Rod, at plus 850 alone. I'm going to take him to win the race at he's plus 900 on Bet365. So get that over there. And then I'm going to take him to do both. Now, some places, like Bet365 has them to do both at 14-1. Makes no sense at all. But DraftKings has it at 25-1. So, again, shop around, especially in F1. There's a lot of like big swings in the numbers. So make sure you're always shopping around with the options that you have. So pole alone, 850 to win 900. Both 25-1. He's been on the podium 5 of the last 7 races. He's got 2 wins in that period. And again, it's just you're getting the fastest team and a very good driver who's got multiple wins here lately to do so again this week, Rod. So give me Oscar Piastri for pole and a win, and do both.
Yeah, I mean, McLaren, they're going to have to find their speed again, right? I mean, they lost a little bit of ground last week. They didn't necessarily lose it to them in the Constructors Championship, but they definitely have lost a little bit of ground in the championship.
Yeah, and see, that's the interesting thing too, is like, obviously we just had this long ass break, so it seems like forever, but let's not forget, like, the last race before the break, Lando won by 21 seconds almost. So yeah, the US Grand Prix, like, they didn't quite show it as much, but what if they hit it right this week again? It's like, that's, I guess, sort of the thing I'm leaning into. It seems like that was forever ago, because that was 5-6 weeks ago, but it was only 2 races ago.
Indeed. All right, well, then I'm going to give out a pole bet of my own, and then I'll give out a winner as well. Charles Leclerc, I'm going to put him on the pole, plus 265. I believe that number came from BetUS. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. Yes, 265 on BetUS for Charles Leclerc. That is the best price for him there. On the pole, look, Charles Leclerc just sat on the pole last week. And he actually, what's crazy is that Charles Leclerc has got 2 poles in the last 4 races, right? He had a pole at Monza. He actually finished on the outside. Oh, I'm sorry. He had 1 pole, 2 poles since Spa. Let's get that way. He won 2 races since Spa. The right column is wins. The left column is poles, right? Just remember how that works. But he did it. He's still same thing, just different amount of races. But he had a pole at Spa and a pole at Baku. So he's fast enough to put it on the pole. And shoot, man, I don't know what these upgrades they brought were, but they're pretty damn fast. So if he could put together a good qualifying lap again in this particular race, I think a pole is not out of the realm of possibility. We know he can finish up front, because he's done that very well over the last several races since Hungary. So if he could just start there, then that's fantastic for him. Plus 265. Maybe he rides the momentum of his win last week in the US Grand Prix to a good qualifying effort here in the Mexico City Grand Prix. So then that's going to lead me to my winner. The only other person that's won this race other than Max Verstappen is Lewis Hamilton. Going to take Lewis Hamilton to win this race at plus 2,200, so 22-1 to win the race. Look, Max Verstappen is still plus 265 to win. All right, Charles Leclerc plus 265, Lando 265. Like, they basically have this winner's bracket just stifled to the point where it's so difficult to want to bet on any one of them to win, even though all 3 of them pretty much have the opportunity to win. So when I'm taking the only other guy that's won this race over the last few years at 22-1, I feel like that is a much, much better proposition for me to do that. Because look, can Lando win this race? Yeah. Can Max win this race? Yeah. Has Lewis won a race in a while? No. Has he been close? But to me, a guy that's finished second in this race for the last 3 years, just a fraction of away from being able to win. Yeah, I mean, hopefully he finds it this weekend. Cody, will it happen? That long silence tells you how. I mean, if I were to rate this in stars, it would probably be a 2.5 stars. But I don't want to give you Max at plus 265. It just seems.
Well, and Yeah,
You know?
that's the point. Is will it happen? Probably not. But could it happen at 25-1 odds? Yeah, or 22-1 odds. If you get 25, even better. But at 22-1, yeah, it's definitely could happen. It's worth betting. Look, it's Lewis Hamilton. Mercedes has still shown the ability to do it, right? We've seen Lewis win multiple. He's won multiple races this year, I believe, right? He has got, I think he has 2 wins, one of which was maybe supposed to be Russell's win, but that's neither here nor there. But he's definitely capable of it, right? I think any given week, any of these top 4 teams could win anywhere. We've seen it, and it does a bit seem, I don't want to say random, but it seems like, any given week a team just shows up and hits it just right, and they're hard to beat. That could easily be Mercedes, and Lewis Hamilton's is one of, if not the greatest driver in F1 history. So, I think this number, it's definitely worth it.
Yep. I mean, he has won, like you said, 2 races this season. So it's not like I'm picking Zhou Guanyu to win a race. This is a guy that's seasoned veteran in a still damn good car that knows how to get around this track. So,
yeah.
All right, get out your pen and paper. We're about to go over our bets for this Mexico City Grand Prix. Cody started you off with Esteban Ocon as a points finisher at 5-1 over on Bet365. I said Liam Lawson would be a points finisher at plus 240 over on BetUS. Thank you very much. Thank you. I've been practicing that one. And with both of those racing bulls inside of the points while you're at it at 8-1. Thanks to our friends over at BetUS. Cody gave you Nico Hülkenberg, the winner without the big 5 ? At plus 225. I said Lewis on the podium at plus 500 over on BetUS was a fantastic bet. Cody said that the winning margin would come between 6 and 12 seconds. Plus 300 over on DK. I'm giving McLaren the fastest pit stop back at plus 300 over on DK as well. Cody's giving you Piastri to win the pole at plus 850 on DK, and then Piastri to win the race at 9-1 over on Bet365. Put both of those together at 25-1 over on DK. I'm giving you Charles Leclerc to win the pole at plus 265. Sorry, I want to actually double check and make sure there's no pole. Where's the qualification, fastest qualifier? Charles Leclerc plus 285 on DK. I just wanted to double check because that's a better price. And then Lewis to win this race at 22-1 over on FanDuel. All right, Cody, that is the Mexico Grand Prix preview. Pretty excited for this one.
I am excited as well, Rod, and we'll be back next week to do it all again. Where are they going next week? I think it's Brazil.
Yeah, because we're going to Southern California.
Yeah, go Southern California.
Okay.
The Southern California Brazil circuit next week, guys. Make sure you come back for that. And it'll be our favorite California track from Brazil. That's shout out to our NASCAR listeners. They'll get that reference. Anyways, let's get the fuck out of here, Rod.
Yeah, let's end this one. I feel like it's already been a long week and it's been a long season already, but we'll hang with you and we'll be back, like you said, next week to wrap this race up and to preview the next Grand Prix. So, Cody, in the meantime, we'll let everyone know where they can find you outside of here.
Yeah, Rod. Follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. Follow the show as well at F1 Gambling Pod. And good luck. Best of luck to you down in Mexico City. See you guys next week.
Indeed. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it's the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, and, all that other good stuff. Hey, if you like Canadian football, go check out the CFL Gambling Podcast. Made a guest appearance with Justin the other day and had some fun there. So, all right, everybody. Love you so much. Don't forget to leave 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next week for more of the F1 Gambling Podcast. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.